Good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. It's just 4 days to go for Delhi elections, for the national capital to get out there and cast their vote and choose their next chief minister. And as the campaign heats up, as the battle for Delhi heats up, we decided to do a status check. Now, viewers, you will remember just about a month ago, exactly around this time, we had got you an opinion poll, a poll giving you a status check of Delhi. A month later, just how different are things on ground? That's what we are going to tell you over the next 60 minutes. And then, of course, our experts will analyze this for you. This is the Times Now Ipsos opinion poll that we are going to unveil for you. What is it that the national capital thinks about Arvind Kejriwal, his governance, the work that his party and government have done in the last 5 years? Is it going to put up a tough challenge for the team Narendra Modi and Amit Shah? That's the big question. What about Shaheen Bagh? Is that going to be a factor that will change the election results? Or has that changed the sentiment from what we saw last month? All of that will be told to you right here over the next 2 hours. But just to give you a sense of what the approach and methodology that this survey uses, about 7,321 residents were surveyed. 54% of them were men, 46 were women. If you see a detailed breakup, then 82% of those surveyed were from the general caste category, 10% OBC, 8% SC/ST. And I'm giving you these details because this essentially is exactly how the entire voter set is. And so this is set to reflect and give you a truer picture of what it is that people of Delhi are thinking. With me in our studios is our managing editor, Vinay Tiwari. But before I go across to him, let's bring in Aarti joining us from our newsrooms. And Aarti, in fact, has the first set of numbers, the big set of numbers, Aarti. What do they say? Can Kejriwal make a big comeback?
Well, not a comeback. He's coming back because he isn't going anywhere, actually, Tanvi. So I can't really call it a comeback because these numbers project that Arvind Kejriwal is set for another term as chief minister. The Delhi public are going to give him a resounding thumbs up. And I want to take you both through the seat share and the vote share that have been projected. Now, the seat share for the national capital, the Aam Aadmi Party is projected to get anywhere between 54 and 60 seats. In 2015, remember, they had gotten they'd gotten 67 seats, which was unheard of, unprecedented. While obviously there is a minor dip, but still, hands down, numero uno party in Delhi is the Aam Aadmi Party. The BJP, while bettering their performance, if that's how you want to look at it, from 2015, they are still projected to be only between 10 and 14 seats. Now, we do know that the internal projections of the BJP were not very positive or not very optimistic in any case. So how much this really stacks up with those numbers, we'll have to see. The Congress is projected to get 0 to 2, but to be honest, they've been a virtual non-entity in this entire election. So even if they manage to get 2 seats, I'm sure that's a huge victory for them. Let's quickly look at the vote share in this particular election. Now, the Aam Aadmi Party is projected to get 52%. That's a thumping 52%. In the previous election, they'd gotten 54. The BJP is projected to get 34%. In 2015, they were at 32%. And the Congress is set to get 4%. In fact, the Congress is the one that is further receded because they were around 9% in 2015. So their vote share really receding. But the big headline, the big takeaway is that Arvind Kejriwal is here to stay. And according to these projections, he's set for another term as Chief Minister of New Delhi.
All right, Aarti, so that's as far as the seat share and vote share are concerned. And, interesting that you're actually seeing, seat share that Aam Aadmi got in Assembly 2015 was about 54.34, and they're simply holding on to that at 52% now. But, Aarti, there was an interesting question that was asked to people along with this, which was that if general elections are held right now, which way would you vote? Because Delhi is that one interesting state where they have voted in completely different, ways when it comes to state versus center.
Absolutely, Tanvi. In fact, there are very interesting stories that emerge from these numbers. First, just let me take you through these numbers that have come from. If Lok Sabha elections were held today, the BJP will poll 46%, the Aam Aadmi Party will poll 38%, and the Congress will poll 7%. But I want to tell you the real story here. Now, the real story here was that the BJP, in fact, was polling 56.9% in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. The Aam Aadmi Party polled 18.2%, and it was the Congress that polled 22.6% in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. If Lok Sabha elections were to happen today, while the BJP would still sweep Delhi, would still sweep the national capital with 7 seats, they would win all 7. The vote shares tell you a very interesting story about how the Congress is completely decimated and all those votes have transferred to the Aam Aadmi Party. But as you were saying, there is a huge takeaway here that the national capital votes very differently when it comes to a Lok Sabha election and when it comes to an assembly election. So it's thumbs up all the way for Narendra Modi in a Lok Sabha election. But when it comes to the state election, it is Arvind Kejriwal who is set to return once again.
Okay, and of course, the third big takeaway from that the Congress party, right, one would have thought that they hit rock bottom a while ago, but they keep finding lower and lower levels, and now whatever little bit of vote share that actually gained in 2019 general elections seems to have gone now completely wiped out. If these numbers actually get reflected, then that's what we'll see happen. Aarti Subramaniam, I'll keep coming back to you for a lot more data and analysis. Thanks for the first 3 sets of information. And let me also say good evening to our panelist, Sanjay Kumar, political scientist, director for CSDS, joins us this evening. And I've also got Anil Joglekar, senior journalist, but along with Mr. Kurban Ali, senior journalist, joining us from our Noida studios. First up, in a quick reaction from you on these numbers. Not very different, honestly speaking, from the numbers and the survey that we had done exactly a month ago, except that maybe BJP has gained 1 more seat, perhaps.
That's right. And I think the larger story is this, that in the last 5 years or so, if a government is asking for a second term and the vote share doesn't show too much of a difference, it clearly tells you that the satisfaction quotient for that particular incumbent party was fairly high. That is part A. Part B, which Aarti already pointed out and you spoke to her, that Delhi votes very differently in the way they choose their Prime Minister or the Lok Sabha candidate, as opposed to what they do when they are looking for an MLA or a local candidate. Very obviously, this whole concept, and that also tells you, and that also reflects in the kind of politics that Mr. Kejriwal has played over the last 1 year or so. You can see that there was a recalibration of the Aam Aadmi Party politics in the last 1 year. They have understood that Delhi is a state that votes largely on local issues. The larger caste divides or issues related to religion don't play as much a part as they possibly do in other states. There is also one other very small difference, but very crucial difference in Delhi, which I'm very surprised the BJP continues to miss election after election, which is this, that Delhi is a state that votes class. It does not vote either caste or anything else. It's a class divide that matters there. And because it's a class divide that matters there, the last mile issues of water, power, free bus, transport, all of them play a big part. And Mr. Kejriwal's politics going hammer and tongs at that seems to be playing out pretty positively for them.
Okay, I also want a quick reaction coming in from Mr. Sanjay Kumar on the numbers that we've just put out. Mr. Kumar, how do you read this data?
No, the numbers are clearly obvious. Numbers suggest that Aam Aadmi Party is definitely going to get a second term. Your number suggests that Aam Aadmi Party is going to get roughly about 52% vote, and BJP is roughly where it was in 2015 election and also in 2013 assembly election, roughly in the range of 32-33%. If the gap between number 1 and number 2 is what it is projected by your poll, the seat share which is being projected is going to be the same. So Aam Aadmi Party is all set to win a second term, maybe a very big victory. If they get 60 seats, it should be considered as a very big victory. But my own sense is that the poll may have been conducted during last, say, 3-4 days or 4-5 days. And maybe my own sense is that the gap is going to get narrowed between Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. So the gap, in my sense, it will get narrowed, but still Aam Aadmi Party will have a huge lead over BJP.
Okay, if I could just ask you, you're saying that even if the poll was conducted, say, 4 days ago, since then the gap would have further narrowed and we still have 3 more days to go. So obviously a week of a difference should be factored in. And why is that?
Yeah. So it should be factored in because look at the pitch of campaign which is taking place in Delhi during last 3-4 days. If I don't count for that, then it means that the campaign has no effect on voters' mind. But I do believe that campaign has an effect on voters' mind. Yes. When you campaign, voters do. There are roughly about 10 to 15% voter who make up their mind on the last 2 days. This is what we get from the surveys which we have been doing in different states. So these 12-14% voters have still not made up their mind. They will make up their mind only on the last 48 hours. So these are the people who might shift either on Aam Aadmi Party side or also on BJP side. At the moment, the polls doesn't indicate whether they are going to shift towards BJP or Aam Aadmi Party. But I get a sense that slowly and gradually BJP has been able to cover some of the ground. I'm not saying that they have covered the entire ground to win the election, but they've been able to cover some ground, and slightly the narrative seems to be shifting towards that side. So many of the undecided voters will vote in favor of BJP, which ultimately mean narrowing the gap between Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. Not enough for BJP to win this election.
Not enough to BJP to win this election, but perhaps have a lesser of a gap, and which is what something that they would be obviously hoping for as well. Mr. Qurban Ali, your reactions to the initial numbers we've put out, and do you agree with what Mr. Sanjay Kumar is saying, that perhaps the latest, and let's just for convenience sake, let's just call it the Shaheen Bagh and the rest of the controversy term that's taken place, could tilt this a little bit in BJP's favor?
Yes, Tanvi, I agree to some extent with my friend Sanjay Kumar, and he is a pundit of this business, so he knows better about the poll surveys and opinion polls. But having said that, I can say that it has been written on the wall. What your expert is said in the beginning, that Arvind Kejriwal is coming back to power. And the reason is that whatever may be the vote share, he is getting into, in my opinion, more than 50 seats in any case. And it is true that Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, UP CM Yogi, and all the BJP leaders make a point on Shaheen Bagh, and they said that as if Shaheen Bagh exists in Pakistan and not is the part of Delhi or India. So they tried hard to communalize, to polarize, but I think Delhi population, Delhi's voter is going with Aam Aadmi Party because of the reasons narrated by Vinay. And everybody is saying, when I was coming to the studio, the taxi driver was saying that we are very happy with Arvind Kejriwal. He has given us a very good hospital services, health services. The education is fantastic. Bijli Pani is very cheap or no bill. So mostly the people are happy and they are not going to vote according to the BJP's wishes.
Okay, that's very interesting, Vinay, what Mr. Qurban Ali is saying, that when he was coming to our studios, and this is what the cab driver told him, because of late, all the guests who've come to our studios have been extremely fed up of the traffic jam, but I guess people don't simply decide their vote on the basis of a traffic jam.
No, they don't. And look, there is one other factor which is very peculiar to Delhi, which is most unlike, say, other states. I think the only other city, and that city in its entirety doesn't play as much of a decisive role, that comes in sociological character, is Mumbai. Delhi is a bigger state. I mean, it's a city-state, so to speak. And the thing that distinguishes Delhi from other places is that it's a largely migrant city. Over 65 to 70% people who live there are migrants, irrespective of socioeconomic classes. Even if you're a socio-economically superior person, you would still perhaps be a migrant. There are very few people who are third-generation Delhiites or fourth-generation Delhiites or second-generation Delhiites also. Most of them have come here. So while it is everybody's karma bhumi, it is not everybody's janma bhumi. And that makes a big difference in your emotional attachment and the way you respond to the city and its problems. It also means that there are a large number of people who live in Delhi who are sometimes away from their families and are sending money back home because that is their financial crutch, so to speak. For that kind of a family or that kind of an individual who stays alone, even a 200 rupee, 500 rupee saving a month plays a big part. So when Mr. Kejriwal says, the Bijli for you is free, or access to health is fairly free, or you can travel in a bus, your wife or your sister can travel in a bus and not pay anything for it, it does have an impact. Because remember, it's also unique because Delhi infrastructure access is identical irrespective of the class that you belong to. You can use the same metro, you will use the same good quality roads, better quality comparatively.
Mumbai's are very jealous of the infrastructure
Mumbai is jealous of that, and I'm using a comparative index. Of course, Delhi has bad roads as well, but certainly not as bad as perhaps you see in Mumbai. They also have access to the same central government hospitals. You can go to AIIMS, you can go to Safdarjung. You really don't have to spend money in traveling. People from Western UP, Eastern UP have to spend a lot of money going to AIIMS. So the access to the basics are much superior in Delhi.
So and that's hence, Bijli, Pani and Wi-Fi.
So it boils down to the last mile issues, and that's how the difference comes about.
Okay. Quick comments also coming in from Ane Joglekar. Arvind Kejriwal and the Aam Aadmi Party, is an experiment of one of a kind. We've not seen, in our country, a party that hasn't been a breakaway group from some existing party. It's something that started brand new, and it looks like his style of governance at least is getting an endorsement in Delhi.
I think there are 2 points. First is elections in Delhi were always been personality centric, and BJP, since the generation of Sahib Singh Verma and Madan Lal Khurana, is not in a position to project a leader who represents Delhi as a whole state, because it was under shadow of Sushma Swaraj and Arun Jaitley. And the second thing, like you said, I agree with that. Arvind Kejriwal emerged out of a revolution from an Andolan against corruption. And initial few months, he was behaving like a revolutionary, but then he got used to the power. And after the defeat in 2014 Lok Sabha elections, and he became more modest, and he focused on Bijli Sadak Pani issues. And that has helped him. And BJP, on the other hand, failed to project any leader, at least in the state of Delhi. Only now, since last 1 month, I believe that BJP has tried to come back in the picture. And in the last 7 days, particularly since Yogi Adityanath, Amit Shah and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have jumped into the polls. So I understand that in last 7 days, BJP will get a big boost, but I still don't know whether that boost is enough to cross the magical figure of 50% votes, because Aam Aadmi Party still continues to go very strong there.
Okay, and these are some of the points that we are going to go into details of as well over the next 2 hours. I just wanted to get quick opening comments, on various aspects of the numbers that we are looking at. But let's go back to Aarti on the news pit, and she's got some more numbers for us, because it's also essential to understand, within Delhi, how are different parts and different regions really voting. Aarti, take us through those numbers.
That's right. I mean, this is a further deep dive into the numbers. Where are the Aam Aadmi Party numbers coming from? Where are the BJP numbers coming from? So Delhi, of course, is divided into 7 parliamentary constituencies, and this is where the votes are coming from. Now, Chandni Chowk, which is traditionally old Delhi, which is a trader-centric zone, the BJP is scoring no seats over here. The Aam Aadmi Party is in fact scoring between 9 to 10 seats here. East Delhi, which is largely Purvanchali, that's again the BJP is scoring just around, approximated to get around 1 seat there. I want to just quickly jump across though to Northeast Delhi. That's where the BJP is projected to get its highest seats of 5. Remember, again, these 2 regions have a very large migrant population from Uttar Pradesh, from Bihar, and that's where Manoj Tiwari really holds key. So there has been a small impact. Well, even though they've not officially projected him as a chief ministerial candidate, but there seems to have had some impact on that. New Delhi, which is the heart of the national capital, where Lutyens Delhi is, in fact, not just there. All across, in all the regions, Chandni Chowk, East Delhi, New Delhi, Northeast Delhi, Northwest Delhi, South Delhi, West Delhi, all across, the Aam Aadmi Party is set to do very well. Between 9 to 10 seats is what they're projected to get. The only place where it's almost on par with the BJP is Northeast Delhi, which is largely can be attributed to the Manoj Tiwari phenomenon. But all across otherwise, the Aam Aadmi Party is head and shoulders above the BJP. And for the Congress, it's just in fact in Chandni Chowk and in the South Delhi area where they're projected to get 1 seat perhaps if they get lucky. But otherwise, a clean sweep across Delhi. It's not just that one region has contributed to the majority of the seats, but all across Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party way head and shoulders above the BJP.
All right, Aarti, thanks so much for bringing us that, and we're going to keep that, that data on the screens as we, I'll ask Vinay actually to help us understand this more for people who are not very well acquainted with this, with Delhi, Vinay. What does this data suggest? Obviously, it's a little difficult to break it up because almost everywhere Aam Aadmi Party seems to be getting a lot of support. But there is one region, of course, where BJP is pretty much neck and neck, which is the Manoj Tiwari stronghold.
Yes, that's because that's also the area where the largest number of Purvanchalis live. And remember, Delhi, as I said at the start, is a largely migrant city. And a lot of people from eastern UP and from Bihar have migrated to Delhi in search of work. They work in factories. There are a lot of essential services that are run by them, from rickshaw drivers to to people who work in shops and establishments and dhabas and a whole lot of other support services, have a large number of people from Eastern UP. Now, Manoj Tiwari, as you know, has been part of the Bhojpuri film industry. He's a very popular star there, has had political ambitions all his life. He's done many parties and finally settled with the BJP, much like some of his other superstar fellows in the Bhojpuri industry, all of whom seem to have graduated towards the BJP over the years. Rabi Kishan has pipped him. In that sense, finally. So his recall, his face recall and his personality recall is much higher in that part, very obviously. It's not to suggest that there aren't other areas where there aren't Purvanchalis, but this is where the highest concentration is. Ironically, this is also the area which has a large number of resettlement colonies and slums. And remember, Aam Aadmi Party tends to do well in those areas because the kind of politics they play and the kind of freebies that they've given impacts those people much more than the others. But purely the presence of Manoj Tiwari possibly is helping the BJP there, and that's possibly the only parliamentary constituency I see where they seem to be in a bit of a fight.
So if I had to take that one point and look at the regional card once again, and Mr. Sanjay Kumar, ask you this question: the BJP was banking on the other big thing that they delivered on, which is the regularization of these colonies, and to really reach out to the Juggi Jhopdi set of voters to say, okay, no, we are delivering on it and we will get this done for you. But does the data reflect that perhaps that will benefit them in some place, if you see it region-wise?
See, if we go by the polls which we are discussing, there is a almost 20% gap between Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. And if the gap is such wide, if you look any kind of analysis, you do any kind of analysis, and we are looking at the regional pattern across regions or pattern across parliamentary constituency, it is bound to happen that the party which is leading over the nearest rival by 20% vote would lead over the other party in all the regions. It is very unlikely that Aam Aadmi Party would trail behind BJP in one of these regions because Aam Aadmi Party has a huge lead. Yes, now the question is about one region where the battle seems to be neck to neck, or the lead is very narrow. And Vinay rightly pointed out, this is the region where there is a lot of Purvanchali. While Purvanchalis you would find Purvanchalis all over the Delhi, but this is in this locality, the Purvanchalis of a different kind. The Purvanchalis who live in this locality are largely belong to the lower and the poor sections of the society, and there is an overlap. Where do they live? They actually live in Juggi Jhopdi and resettlement colonies. So the BJP's plank of regularizing the Juggi Jhopdi seems to have worked in this locality. At least this is what the data indicates.
There is also one other reason, Tanvi, which possibly explains why it's not worked to the extent that it should.
They would have hoped for.
The 1700 odd regulations list that has been announced, if you see that list, that's fairly spread out.
Okay.
It's not just concentrated in Northeast Delhi. I mean, it includes places in West Delhi, it includes places in South Delhi. It's spread out. And I tell you why that problem is a little peculiar for the BJP. Sanjay ji will bear me out on this. Regularization as an instrument of power in Delhi has been used since 2000 onwards when Sheila Dikshit was in power. And remember, in those days, after 2004, there was a UPA government at the center. So Sheila Dikshit found it easy to get Manmohan Singh government to do whatever regularization effort that they wanted to. It was a sure shot card that they played election after election. Before every election, they would regularize thousands of colonies, and it was like a calling. They just exploited it to the hilt. So the number of colonies that could have been regularized have also reduced over the years because virtually everything is getting regularized in Delhi. That's become the calling card for any party which is in power. Now the BJP has got a chance to do that finally. I mean, they didn't really have the chance last time around. Now they got a chance, and the only chance they got, they've done 1700. There aren't too many left now to regularize. A lot of them have already been regularized. And Delhi had a very peculiar land structure. You had Lal Dora land, and you had these unauthorized colonies which were illegal. You had all kinds of different landowning agencies and different municipalities. So the problems were very complicated. And one solution which overrid all of these problems was to simply regularize them. And that's something that has reduced the efficacy. The tool's efficacy has been reduced to some extent over the last 15 years or so.
Okay, and then, Mr. Qurban Ali, is it also more about, TK, regularization is one thing, but if you look at that entire, class of voters, it matters if you're giving them free electricity, if you're giving them clean water, or free water, and all the other services.
Yes, Tanvi, I think what is my limited knowledge about the Jhuggi Jhopri cluster, which is the core voter of the Aam Aadmi Party. Barring the party line, they all are hardcore supporter of Arvind Kejriwal, and that's why I am little. I'm not sure about this data about the East Delhi, Northeast Delhi, because if you go to the Northwest Delhi, there is a core BJP voters. Mainly, it's a rural constituency, and mostly BJP supporter. Pravesh Verma is MP from that constituency. So there BJP is down, and in Northeast is a little higher and little up. So I don't understand this phenomena, but I'm sure that most of the cluster people, Jhuggi Jhopdi voters, will vote for Aam Aadmi Party.
Just one small correction. Pravesh Verma is actually an MP from West Delhi. Northwest Delhi is actually the only reserved constituency, and this is Hansraj Anch is the winner from there as an MP. So the larger rural population actually falls in West Delhi. All these Mundkas and the Bhavanas and all the Narela is actually part of West Delhi. And after
That's what I'm saying, Vinay.
Yeah, no, I'm saying Pravesh is West, and Northwest, which is adjacent to Northeast, is...
Yeah, so even in West Delhi, the BJP is only, based on this survey, only projected to get 2 to 3 seats.
That's right. That's
exactly as the Northwest Delhi. So
That's
both
correct.
these, Mr. Qurban Ali is saying that perhaps you would have expected, Mr. Qurban Ali, that BJP does a lot better than what we are looking at. One other thing that I want to talk about to our experts is the vote share, change and shift that Aarti was pointing out. And if you look at the 2019 general elections, where Congress actually got 22.6% vote share, that's now come down to 7% vote share. And if you look at Aam Aadmi Party's vote share, they are now standing at 52%. That shift which has happened.
Yeah, but
what is that shift because of?
The Congress's vote share is entirely the Muslim voters.
Yes.
It is lock, stock and barrel, because that's what happened in Lok Sabha. In that, they were choosing an MP, and obviously they thought at that point of time that Congress was a better opposition possibly to the BJP. Obviously, they would never go with the BJP. And obviously, they've realized that that's not strategically critical in a state assembly. So that has shifted lock, stock and barrel to the Aam Aadmi Party. It's very clear. And that's obviously the reason why you see how BJP has also changed its tactic, and so has AAP. AAP's tactic has been very, very cagey and very, very guarded in the last few weeks or so. They've changed their strategy. They've been reacting to certain events, sometimes forcibly, but they've clearly changed their tactic in the last year or so in Delhi, and because they've understood how the tectonic shift is happening in Delhi.
Okay, so the Congress vote share shifting all the way to the Aam Aadmi Party, and that's the Muslim vote bank, as you say. In that sense, then I have to ask this question, Vinay, that if there is a polarizing strategy and if Shaheen Bagh is being used, can it not work both ways, not just for the BJP?
Well, look, the bottom line is that I mean, in Delhi, much as in other states, Muslims have always voted fairly tactically. It's not as if they haven't. Even in UP, they vote tactically, not uniformly though, but they do vote tactically. And for obvious reasons, there is no way that any part of the Muslim community is going to vote for the BJP. Very minuscule numbers in the current environment. Absolutely not possible. The only question that remains is that if they don't choose one, who do they go for in opposition? In this case in Delhi, there is no real contest. I mean, you really cannot be expected to be voting for a Congress in a state election like Delhi. And the Congress knows this. I mean, they're barely campaigning. Tomorrow is the first time. Today
is the first time we spotted the Gandhis.
They went out and... So this is just tokenism. They know it. Yeah. And I think strategically, perhaps it's even better, because the lesser they campaign, the better it is for this contest. The more they campaign, it will probably eat into each other's votes. So clearly, the options or the choice between the Muslim community is virtually nothing. I mean, they have no option but to go with the Aam Aadmi Party. So, yes, polarization helps, but I would suggest that even if there was no polarization, there was no way that the Muslim vote would have split any other way.
Okay. Anand, do you want to come in on this aspect? Because obviously a big part of the conversation now when it comes to Delhi elections has become about the vote share basis, the religious identities, the polarization of these elections, especially with what we've seen in the last 10 days.
Tanvi, I would like to bring your attention to Pratap Bhanu Mehta's recent article where he has compared that the polarization in the past was mostly around when the elections were around the corner, like it was for a couple of months. But what has changed since the Lok Sabha elections is BJP is continuously keeping the pot boiling, and all these issues which are contentious but which are very at the core of BJP's ideology, they are being picked up. And in a way, this polarization has been a continuous process. And what they are saying is like, I come from Mumbai and Maharashtra, so BJP's Hindutva is changing from a Hindutva of scriptures and temples to Hindutva of street. And it is ordinary people, poor people, lower middle class people have started identifying itself with BJP's Hindutva, which was like Shiv Sena's Hindutva in 1980s and 90s. I don't know whether it will work. This process is complete by the elections and whether people will vote as Hindus. But this attempt is going to have far-reaching effects in Indian politics, and we will see that in Delhi.
One quick point to your question, very small and direct answer is the polarization obviously will help the BJP more because that's the larger vote bank they're trying to wean away from the AAP. The Muslims are already decided, there's no way they'll go to the BJP. So the only gain that the BJP can have is by confusing or trying to convert the AAP supporter into a BJP supporter, and that the only best bet they have is to polarize it and appeal to a more religious angle or a more communal angle than say perhaps an issue-based angle, because that's where the AAP party has a significant lead.
Okay, the other set, and then this is the big one. We are now going to do a deep dive into the big personalities, into how Delhi looks at Arvind Kejriwal, his performance, how much do they trust him versus Narendra Modi, their chief minister and their prime minister, because clearly there is a difference in the way Delhi seems to be choosing their leaders for the state and the center. All of that will come up in 2 minutes. Stay with me. Quick break. We'll be right back with lots more on this exclusive poll that we've got for you on Delhi elections. Stay with us.
मैं आज बीजेपी से कहना चाहता हूं कि दिल्ली के लोग ये चाहते हैं कि बीजेपी अपना सीएम कैंडिडेट डिक्लेयर करे, और उस सीएम कैंडिडेट के साथ मैं बहस करने के लिए तैयार हूं। अमित शाह जी ये कह रहे हैं भाई तुम हमको वोट दे दो, फिर सीएम मैं तय करूंगा। जनतंत्र में सीएम जनता तय करती है।
अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, आप कहीं कोई समय रख लें, हमारा कोई न कोई आप किसको लगा दें, आप अगर बैठेंगे तो हम में से भी कोई बैठ सकता है, लेकिन कोई समय निश्चित करें। हम मैनिफेस्टो पे, संकल्प पत्र पे बहस करने को बीजेपी तैयार है।